Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, we've got the boys, Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair. They are here. We are here. We're ready to talk about League, and we got a great episode today. We've got some things to talk about, but the top three I can think of, at least wave tops, there's so much to talk about. But, I mean, we've got Zeri making her debut, as well as Janna Karma top with Smite making its debut in Pro Play, at least in LCS. I know it was in LEC as well. The church is here. We've got LS and C9 take it, with their real roster taken week one by storm with some interesting picks like Ivern and Soraka mid. And I also want to touch on Champions Queue later on, because I'm hyped for it. Like, I watched a couple of games today from people streaming, and I legit think that this could be the answer we've been waiting for to at least get LCS, NA on their way to winning Worlds, and I'm super excited, and we'll get on that. But first of all, I just want to touch base with you guys. What did y'all think of this first week of LCS? Like, was it the most exciting LCS start that you've seen? Because I think for me, at least in the longest time that I can remember, this was definitely the most exciting start to an LCS split that I can remember in a while. But so I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
For me, I would say yes, but no at the same time. I think the games themselves and the storylines were all really cool, but what really killed it for me was just not having the co-streams. That was the biggest problem for me.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Honestly, the co-streams... Okay, to be fair, the production of LCS has actually gone up a lot. I've actually enjoyed the casting a lot, and I've enjoyed the analyst desk more than I have in, honestly, years. I used to love the casting desk. I used to love watching it before every single game. And I think it's the return of Jat. That's the big deal for me. Is the return of Jat has really made a big deal. Him casting, him being on the NLSS has been great. But the co-streams just bring a totally different angle, right? I love hearing Doublelift, Sneaky, and Meteos just talking about the most random crap. But then when you hear those little gems in between and realize that these guys are like some of the best pro players NA has ever seen, it's just such a big thing to miss. Like, they have so much input that an LCS caster can never give.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, with all the storylines coming in with the super team from TL, LSS C9, Jojo Pion, and Inspired on EG, like, and also 100 Thieves, will they come back or not? I think that this should have been the most exciting weekend. And in some ways it was. For me, the lack of live crowd, it keeps sitting in. Like, I watched some clips from the LFL or whatever it's called, that European league that Reckless is playing in.
Oh, with Reckless!
Yeah.
That was so hype.
Right? And I was like, wait, why are they allowed to have a giant crowd for their tournament? Riot's okay with it, but for LCS and LEC, we can't. I'm not going to get into the reasons behind it. I'm sure they have some reason, but it's just strange. We're about to have the Super Bowl in LA, I think. And yet we still can't have a small live audience in the studio. They could be spread out. I don't mind. I'm curious why we don't have one.
Yeah. It could just be the four of us. The four of us can just go there. We'll be the whole audience. We will be so loud.
I'm ready.
I promise you.
Yeah, Mitchell can be loud for him and I.
I'm pretty loud too. I was just at my daughter's on the pep squad at her school. She's not even in the basketball game, but the basketball game's going on and I'm going crazy and I'm like that guy, that dad that everybody's looking at shut this boomer up.
I do think the broadcast got better. I don't think it's exactly where we want it to be, but Jat definitely was a rock. We needed him on that desk. He makes analytical stuff interesting and relatable. I think that the hype video they did was actually quite good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
They touched on all of our star players. There was a Danny moment. I don't know if Jojo Pin's in there because I don't recall what he looks like yet, but they did a good job of touching on the key pieces. I do think lack of co-streams kind of sucks. I will say that co-streamers aren't always the most generous towards LCS's skill level, but we still need that. We do need I think in a lot of pro sports, like the old legends do still get on the desk someday, and like it adds a lot, right? That shows how you're like an enduring sport, because most sports just die out before once their legends retire, they just like never come back, or you just hear about them once or twice, right? So if as long as they still care now, we should take advantage of that, or else we're gonna lose them like we lost Donkey way back when he was the biggest video creator for League, and now he's just I actually don't know how big he is, but I think he's still quite big.
He's still pretty
just
big.
He's
he's still pretty big.
He
Right.
hates League. I think the beauty of League of Legends and esports in general is that you can have these pro players retire, but they can still stream and play solo queue, right? Like, how often do you hear a former football player playing pickup games, right? Or basketball, right? You never hear about or see that anytime. But we get to see Doublelift, Sneaky, Meteos, and a whole list of pro players turn on their streams, play some League, play some solo queue, right? Hear their thoughts regularly. I think that's the beauty of esports that you can never get.
I think there is something about that. I mean, I've even thought about that before, like when League was, still kind of, in its third, fourth, fifth season or whatever, thinking about like the current players and like, well, what's going to happen when they stop playing? Like, I still kind of want to see them play. And, the NBA players, there is something kind of like this. I don't know if you guys have heard of Ice Cube started this 3-on-3 basketball league, and pretty much all the players there are like just retired NBA players or players that you hadn't heard of in a while. And you know what? It's drawing quite a crowd because it's a little different. It's not as physically tiring as 5-on-5 full court, 3-on-3, but you still get to see your favorite players play. And I know before, the tragedy of Kobe Bryant, one of the things they were thinking of is maybe he could be on this league and, still be a big draw. So I totally agree that, co-streams kind of not having it kind of sucks because their insight is so important. But I'm hoping that maybe they'll bring it back in the future because, you never know. So I wanted to get, start with Zeri making her debut because we did talk about that. And very first game, first picked with Danny, and he gets a pentakill. I think after that, she had 100% presence. And I think after that, she was banned pretty much every time except for, I think, Tactical got her and didn't do so well. But what are your thoughts on her as a champion? We didn't see her mid, only saw her as an ADC, but let me get your thoughts. Broken or just a good game by Danny?
So I'll go first as the ADC main. I'm still not convinced the champion's good. From my experience, she's a mosquito. She just doesn't do much damage in my opinion. And even if you look back, like sure Danny got a pentakill, but it's the same thing as when he got it on Senna. Any champion would have gotten it. Realistically, he kind of just last hit 3 of the kills. I mean, even just my issues with her is her early game is just so bad. You can't do anything in lane unless you have a really good support matchup, which you can't guarantee, especially when you're going to B1 Zeri. And her late game isn't really anything that special either. Sure, he got a penta, but he just I can't see how a Jinx doesn't do the exact same thing. Maybe because she doesn't jump over walls, but I don't know. I'm personally not convinced. As for her in solo lanes, I think that has potential. We did see Darshan play it in Academy.
Okay.
He did fairly well on it, but I think she's more of a solo laner than she is in AD carry.
It makes sense. She builds bruiser items, and she definitely relies heavily on scaling with levels as well, is what I've noticed. She's really got to get up there in stats and just overall, like, not even damage, but beefiness. I feel like that's, like, her main thing is, like, she needs to live long enough to be able to get enough DPS out there. I'm kind of on the same boat. I don't think she's very good. I think she was picked for the novelty of it, and that it was different, it was exciting, and I don't know, Danny was playing against TSM who just arrived there, right? I'm personally, what I'm wondering is how her support matchup's going to shape out. We saw her get played with Leona. I always thought she was only going to get played with enchanters like Karma or Lulu, like basically people who could shield her and speed her up at the same time. But she got played with the Leona, and I guess it adds the extra damage that maybe she's missing because Leona does, a ton of damage. But yeah, I don't think she's like she didn't feel game defining at any point. She just felt like she was hard to kill and always there, but didn't actually do that much.
Right.
So we gotta figure. There's gonna be a lot of time. For all we know, her builds might change, and everything could look different. But there's just too early to tell.
Well, I watched a whole weekend of 100% pick ban of
Yeah,
a character
sure.
in
Yeah,
pro
the
play.
Pryo.
So, I mean, I think she's really good. I think, yeah, sure, it's a mosquito, but I mean, mosquitoes can spread malaria and just kill everything, right? I mean, I'm just gonna
Carriers of disease.
again. It's kind of a cancer character, although you don't spread cancer through mosquitoes.
Yeah.
It's pretty AIDS though. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's perfect. That's actually the
We went
perfect
hard on
line.
this disease route. I like it.
I mean, the point is, yes, she's annoying. She comes in, pokes out, doesn't do that much damage in any one round, right? But at that level of play, like that's kind of what you need an AD carry to do, right? You want an AD carry that you don't have to babysit too much. You can, right? If you babysit her with some enchanters, she'll also be nuts. I think Zeri Yumi is an abomination of new character design. But I think they're onto something. If they're banning at 8 games, some of it could be arguably I just don't know what this character does. No one plays it. I don't care. I don't want to see it. But like in that game, Danny gave up first blood inting. Like he flashed forward like level 3, died first blood, and then and went up 100 CS subsequently. Now some of it's because Tactical didn't play that well against it, in my opinion. But some of it is like there's probably some merit to this character being good, just straight up. So I don't know. I think it's OP. I think it's OP as an AD carry. It might be more OP in other roles. I can agree to that, but I just think it's just a broken character that will only be in and out of meta due to numbers, not necessarily her kit.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I know a lot of high elo players are saying she's really good, and I can see it, but I can only speak from personal experience playing with it, playing as it, and playing against it. And I don't know. I just haven't seen it perform as well as people say it should. I mean, I feel like it's really easy to counter, and if you can just roll her over in lane, you just absolutely just smack her around. I mean, especially with, and we can get to this later, Ashe is getting buffed. I pick Ashe into Zeri every game, and she can't play the game.
Yeah.
I also think with Zeri, it's very team count reliant and dependent too. If there aren't champions that can, well, point and click is a very obvious and easy one, but like simply gap close or reliably CC her or even reliably damage her, it doesn't feel like she does anything, right? Like I feel like a champion like honestly like Victor, who's very prevalent in the meta right now, just kind of raffle stomps her, right? If you try to land a Q on a Victor, he clicks you with his Q and his ulti. He doesn't even have to land E, and you're not having a great time. So, I mean, that's kind of my thing. I feel like there's a lot of answers in the meta that should be able to deal with a pick like Zeri, and I just don't think teams are used to being like, I'm Victor, I just gotta save Q ulti for when Zeri walks up to Q me, and then boom, she's gone. She's done for the fight. So, I'm still on the boat that she sucks and people are just trying to figure out how to beat her. So
Yeah, I mean, and it could be a little bit of both. Like, even though with 100% presence, you don't know what the reasoning of the presence is. Like, was she OP, or did we just not have enough time to really scrim it enough or figure out if she is good or not? Here's what I think happened, okay? Danny picked it. They're like, all right, well, let's see. He gets a pentakill. Other team's like, all right, heck no. This is not going through. We're banning it every single game. And then for some reason, Tactical got it. And, it didn't look as hot. But
dude, Tactical is so bad this weekend.
It did not look.
Awful weekend.
It's so bad this weekend.
It was really, really bad. But, another thing making its debut was the Janna smite top. But also not just Janna, but Karma. I saw it in... I think the first league I saw it in, I think I said LEC earlier, but I don't think that was right. It was in a Spanish league that I'd first seen it.
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then, of course, we saw it with FlyQuest. And FlyQuest, honestly, like, look, man, nobody's expecting big things out of your team. Why not, right? Like, why not try to throw in this strategy? Because it'll at least make the rest of the teams try to figure out how how to beat it. Honestly, I don't know if it looked too great. I mean, there were some great moments, but I mean, some of those games still felt really close and really hard to win. So give me your overall thoughts on what you thought about seeing it. Does it look viable to you guys, in a professional environment, in a competitive environment? And yeah, if your thoughts have changed or anything like that.
So, I mean, my thoughts haven't changed. I still think it's unhealthy, and I think it's really good. I do want to caveat by saying FlyQuest pulled it out against CLG and Golden Guardians.
Yes. Exactly.
So, I mean, it's a low bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say Golden Guardians, the fact they lost that game is very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody won that game. FlyQuest did not play that game well. Golden
Yeah.
Guardians just for some reason decided to stop split pushing and try and 5v5 a pure 5v5 comp who cannot answer side lanes at any point.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm not sure how good it is just as a karma. The reason Janna's so good is because of her passive. So she just gets so much more movement speed. Overall, I think it's here to stay for a while, and the nerfs that are coming in are honestly pretty irrelevant.
What are the nerfs, if you could explain?
Let me pull them up. They were released today.
Oh, interesting.
I haven't seen them yet.
They're not like in the game, but they're coming for the next patch. So they're changing 4 things, but I don't think it's really gonna change much. So the minion farming penalty is going to be when you're at 4 minions per minute, down to 2 minions per minute until 5 minutes, and then 4 per minute for the rest of the game.
Okay.
So basically, for the first 5 minutes, you getting CS is more severe.
Yeah.
Then there's the CS bounties are now adjusted based on the number of income items you have, so just support items.
Okay.
Then objective bounty golds, our gold leads are halved when you have 2 or more support items, which that one could make a difference.
That's
Okay.
And the objective bounty linger is now 5 seconds rather than 15. So when it says they're falling, they're going to fall off much faster.
Okay.
I actually think those are pretty big changes.
Yeah.
So I've experimented and played. I'm sorry, Solo Cube people, but I played quite a bit of Janna top and Karma
Imagine
top.
my surprise.
There we go.
I'm a meta abuser, so I wanted to check it out and see. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest things that it wasn't just the objective bounties; it was the individual bounty that the enemy top laner got that was like compounded with the objective bounty. That was such a big deal because I would sit in lane, and then also the lane tax, right? So you sit in lane until you're level 3, and then you roam around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I like adjusted my play style, and I would go top every now and then if I really could tell there was nothing going on in the lanes. So I'll just go up there and catch a wave or 2, right? And I could get a good amount of farm and experience and gold. Lowering that to be earlier is going to be a big deal. You're going to lose, like, we're talking like a couple hundred gold from this change, maybe, right? If you're really good at CSing. As a Janna top. On top of that, right, like what you do is you turbo farm your jungler, and then later on you go top lane. The enemy top laner, right, has basically been AFK pushing. They take the enemy top laner. They're always pushed up. They're trying to go to the tier 2, right? If your enemy jungler picks up that kill, they get like 450 to 500 golds just from killing them on top of whatever objective bounties they've gotten throughout the game. So there's like a big swing of gold that could be in like the 700-800s, like just from counting very briefly, that could swing away from a Janna top abusing team. So that's not a small amount, right? Especially when it's focused on the Janna and their jungler. So I think those changes can make a big deal because I agree with Alistair. The strategy is broken. The strategy is very, very strong, especially if like you're a very cerebral, smart player as the Janna top. You don't just okay, so the strategy right now is you level to 3 in lane and then you never go back top, right? But I think if you can adjust and sort of play the game, ear by ear, you can still go top, and you can even tell your jungler to go top. You can go up there, you can catch a wave randomly at any point after making plays elsewhere, and you can even tell your own jungler to come up there because half the time the enemy top laner hasn't based a single time because they're full HP. You just go kill them really quickly, and then your jungler is snowballing like crazy. You don't have to focus just on drags. You can take rifts too, right? Like,
Yep.
I think the strategy has so much to explore. So I'm glad they're nerfing it already because if people perfected it, there's a lot of nuance in the Janna top strategy. So yeah, glad it's being nerfed.
I'm kind of conflicted. I came in with a lot of steam, and then I heard these changes, and I'm like, oh, no, those make sense. I thought they were gonna hurt the jungling aspect of it. Like, I don't know what they were gonna do, but I was like, maybe they'll hurt smite, maybe they'll do something about it. I think those changes are good. They're probably going to help. I don't know if they'll mitigate it, but I think it will help in terms of the immediate power level, right? Getting into Reason, but if teams commit to it and actually learn how to use it properly, I think the strengths are still there, right? Like, Janna just offers so much, and to a lesser extent, Karma offers so much. So I don't think that changes that much. It's just that beforehand, it was kind of evened out by the fact that like teams just didn't know what they were doing with it. Like, even like FlyQuest would probably put scrim time into it. Yeah, they looked okay, but they were playing against some pretty bad teams that they probably could have beat with a regular strategy. Now, maybe they couldn't. We don't really know what they look like without it, but yeah. So I think that's fine. I do think that we should still implement the takeout. What's it called? Take out the ability for laners to take smite. Like, I don't get it. There's
And
never.
you can only
Yeah.
buy one support item.
Yeah, I think the support item, like just being able to buy that is so abusable. Like they need to limit that somehow. Like if you have two
Yeah.
support items, both of them face a big
And that
penalty
seems
or
like
something.
like a really simple thing, right? Like, and
Well,
and not
you want to
like,
avoid you getting trolled though, because there's like Moonstone Lilia and stuff like that, or Moonstone Soraka mid, and then if they pick it right and they don't know the patch or they're
That's
doing
a
it on
support
purpose.
mythic though. That's
Yeah.
different than the
Yeah,
support
we're
ward
talking the
item.
warding items like spell
Yeah.
thieves.
So I guess
I
like
thought those
what
were they're mythics. I don't play
No.
support at all. So.
no.
Oh,
So, I mean, but
interesting.
to your point though, right? Like, let's say you're a top lane Janna, and the change goes in where you can only have one support item, right? You control your team, and you can completely screw over your own support just by buying a support item.
Yeah.
So that is a very real thing.
Well, you can just do, if you're labeled jungle, you're the only person who can buy smite item. If you're labeled support, you're the only person who can buy support item.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you're
but-
the
Sometimes
only
you
person who
switch
can
roles
have
in
smite.
solo
Yeah,
queue, right?
sometimes
Well,
switch.
then you implement something that says, "Hey, can I swap roles with you?" And then
Yeah.
you actually have a button, just like you do with
I agree with
champions.
that.
That
is
would be
fair.
great. Yeah, in champ select,
It's not
you
that
say,
hard to fix. The
jungle.
reason Riot's holding back is because they don't want to quote unquote remove meta or remove off meta things whenever enchanters in a solo lane become relevant, it's borderline game breaking. We've seen this for the last 2 or 3 years.
Longer than that, honestly. We've seen
Yeah,
it since Funnel
exactly.
in like 2015 or 16
Yeah.
or whatever that
Even
was.
before
like,
then with Lulu top.
Exactly.
Like,
Like
it's
True.
Enchanters have always been a very broken class.
yeah, enchanters need to be addressed. I agree,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's just so much that I think they just need to start with. If you're jungle, you can take smite. No one else. If you're support, you can buy support item.
That's a good
no
start.
One else.
Yeah,
Just
that's
start there.
Somewhere around there, and then you deal with the fringe cases as you get to them. But I think for the majority of situations, that'll fix everybody's problem. And it'll be
agree.
the fringe cases that you can complain about, but like most people will be happy.
But I wonder,
and then, yeah.
like, I just want to, like, okay, I'm going to play the other side here because I'm one that, you know, maybe in solo queue, yeah, it's rough, right? Because there is not really a cohesion. It's something new. Generally, like, even when I would play it, like, people on my team didn't know how it worked. And so I'm trying to coach them on what to do. Like, the whole point is to get you ahead, jungler, like, and I'm trying to tell him, you know, but they just keep pinging me.
Idiot.
Yeah, they're like, keep pinging me to go back to lane, and I'm like, dude, that's, you know. So anyway, so what I'm getting to is that I know it's legit because as I was watching Champions Queue, which we're going to talk about, guess who was running Janna top and killing
Orlo?
it? His name is Core JJ. That's right.
He was playing
He
it?
was
Oh my
playing
goodness.
it in Champions
Orlo
Queue.
Fair.
And,
Whipple support?
And can I just say and by the way, he didn't take Smite either. He didn't
Yeah.
take Smite. He just played Janna top with Glacial. I believe he had Exhaust and
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah.
It's really good still. You don't
Yeah,
have to
it's
take
really
smite.
good.
It's really good.
Exactly. So
Yep.
here's my thing, you know, with what you guys are saying, it's like it looks like it could be a legit like other type of strategy, and like if it forces teams to think about more than one way to have to defend, like it gives more options, more plays, so to speak. If you're thinking football terms, there's more than one way to play, and maybe a team is good at that, and maybe you don't necessarily even have to be the best mechanically skilled player, right? But it throws in another nuance. I mean, we've seen things like that with like Sonoteric, or things that were just not the normal thing, but teams had to come up with like, how do I play this? Like, even remember when Senna came out in Double Lift, couldn't play Senna at all, and so I think there's a sense aside where I do like seeing things like that, because it changes things up a little bit. It forces teams to always be on their toes and think of ways to legitimately play as it and play against it. And plus, it's just more nuance. Like, there's more variety, and so I like it in that aspect. I'm not saying that there aren't broken parts about it, but I think what you guys were mentioning, what we were mentioning, making certain changes might help it go in that direction where it's not completely broken, but it's still viable.
Yeah, I would agree. I just think like my biggest issue with it is the fact that the way it works right now, even if you don't have smite, if you still have the support item, you still gain gold passively.
Yes.
And because you're still around your jungler, you still get the gold from hitting them.
Yep.
And that's the problem. So if you make it so, hey, top laners can't buy spell thieves now, it means that the top lane Janna or whoever they're playing has to actually get gold somehow. Otherwise, you're just completely worthless.
Yeah.
And I would be completely fine with that, rather than just have someone follow them around like a lost puppy, and they just can do whatever they want.
Yep.
I have a friend who got autofilled mid. He picked Yuumi with smite and just sat in a Hecarim all game.
Nice.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like it's not just top lane; it's multiple different roles, and I don't know. I'm okay with it being in the game, but it should have some more counterplay or some more openings to do something.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, as Azale said it on the cast, where he said, the biggest thing about this, playing against it, is not losing your mental. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
In solo queue.
It's true.
It's like the lack of counterplay is the biggest deal, right? Because the Janna top has to put in so much less effort into getting gold than the enemy top laner does. And it feels like the Janna has to work less and still has more impact on the game. So if they can adjust that, where it's more similar, then fine, it can be viable. But it's too easy and it has more impact, right? Like, it's a double whammy. It's easier and it's better. But there is clear counterplay to it. It's just very niche, right? So hyperscaling tops are classically the counter pick, right? You pick Jack's top, and sure, you get to AFK, you get a ton of plates, and eventually you're gonna outscale the Janna, and you're gonna outscale all 5 of the enemy team, right? Or Aurelia, or Kale, or whatever, Camille, whatever you want, right? So there's the counterplay. There's actually other counterplay that I've thought of, is that one of the issues is you get counter jungled a lot. If you pick an incredibly supportive jungler, like Ivern, or something like that, who doesn't give a crap how much they get counter jungled, that's another reasonable thing, right? If you pair a supportive or some type of jungler like that with a scaling top, I actually think you beat this kind of comp. It's just you just have to hope your bot lane doesn't roll over, right? But then, in addition to that, though, right, you need an ADC who also is a scaling ADC. Like, I don't think you ever pick a Janna top with like a Jhin bot, right? Like, you need like a Jinx or a Vayne or something. Some teams might, right? But you need some sort of scaling on your side to ensure that you can take advantage of the bounties and you can actually capitalize on, right?
And this will probably never be fixed like for solo queue, because nobody in solo queue is going to think this way.
Well, they can't because
they
exactly
can't.
you can't. How are you going to say, okay, so if we don't have last pick for top and jungle, we just lose if they have Janna.
Exactly. It's impossible to fix it.
You can't draft against things in solo queue.
Yes.
99% of the time.
Yeah. But in pro play, there is clear counterplay to it.
I agree.
It's just very niche, right? It's like it's so
Right.
specific, but it's so easy for the Janna top that it's not fair.
And
It's,
I
I
will
mean, we saw
say,
it with Golden Guardians. They
Yeah.
they did it really well. They picked Gwen, who's the best top
Yes.
laner in the game, maybe the best champion in the game right now.
Scales very well.
Got
Great split
super
pushing.
fed, was carrying the game, and then they just decided to randomly 5v5 and
Yeah.
the 5v5 comp.
Yeah,
And I
so
will
it was
say-
countered. They just couldn't play the game as a team.
Well, they picked Zed jungle. That is like self-countering yourself if you pick into Karma.
Yeah, but
like,
it
what are
didn't
you
matter.
doing? I mean, it didn't matter, but like, why pick Zed there?
That's also true.
Like, just pick J4 or like Ivern or
Well, to
anything
be-
but Zed there. Jesus
To be
Christ.
fair, they didn't think it. I imagine they didn't think it was Karma top.
You're playing Zed jungle, bro. Oh my god, you're such
Yeah,
a tourist.
I will say though, I will say that in Champions Queue, when Core JJ was playing it, the other team was trying to counterplay it, which was neat because you were so they picked Tryndamere top, and
Yep, that's a
honestly,
great one.
and Tryndamere took basically all of top lane, even the top inhib, and then took all of bot lane inhib, and literally it was close. The Janna top team actually eventually won because they had a Rise who could answer Tryndamere's push, and the 4v4 was just their 4v4 was better.
It's just so easy for
yeah.
the Janna top. If they draft well enough, there's very little room for counterplay.
Yeah.
Because if you pick enough scaling on your side, and you can have a champion that eventually answers split push, like a Tryndamere, which is one of the best split pushers in the game, it's like you really can't beat it. It's so hard to beat as a strategy.
Okay, well, I mean, look, that was a lot of good discussion. We're still probably going to touch base on it as we talk into other things, but let's move on to, we were talking about enchanters, right?
Broken.
Let's talk about the church and LS and C9's drafts, because you talk about enchanter, you got Soraka, you got Ivern mid by Fudge. Hey, look, if Fudge doesn't have a champion pool, just make one. Just make them play enchanters, It's easy fix. But this made me think about how we've been talking about the support role in general, and how, we've been talking about what's better. We're seeing enchanters, we're seeing engagers, and if you pick an enchanter, although broken, now where's your engage coming from? Well, you know what? Let's just pick both. Let's pick Thresh in the support lane. Let's pick Soraka in the mid lane or something like that. And, you have the best of both worlds. Interesting drafts. They did go 2-0. So let me get your thoughts on, C9, their drafts. We also got to see Berserker. We got to see Summit. And it was just fun for me. It was fun to see, exciting to see their games. C9 still doing it. Give me your thoughts on them and their whole crazy picks.
I think it was. I don't want to say it was interesting because I almost fell asleep watching these games.
Okay. I loved it, but yeah, that's cool.
I didn't. I'm honestly just tired of watching the same three champions who are in the same role that they have been for the last 3 years just roll over games with an enchanter. I mean, even when they do it without an enchanter, I'm just tired of seeing, a champion just face roll into four or five people.
What champion are you talking about?
Xin Zhao is a good one.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking generally. I'm not talking specifically these games. But Xin Zhao, Hecarim, Viego, all champions that are guilty of this. I can't remember exactly what jungles Cloud9 played actually. I know they played Ivern Soraka. I don't remember what junglers
Gwen
they played.
jungle.
Olaf, and they played Gwen jungle. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really that surprising. I don't know. I've been saying it for a while. I don't really think jungle should be a role as strong of a carry role the way it is. Personally, I'm not saying it should be a tank only or support only thing, but I find it's in a game when games go as fast as they do, and you have a role with this much impact, you just throw an enchanter on them and off to the races. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think the philosophy behind Enchanter's mid is basically, Alistair said it earlier, right? He had a friend just go Yuumi mid. It's not too different of a strategy of going Janna top.
Right.
I think the difference is that the mid lane Enchanter, in these games at least, actually laned against a Victor.
Yeah.
And it's very specific, right? It's against a Victor, and you could probably work against an Azir or an Orianna. It probably won't work against a Syndra, but it'll work against a Corki, right? So like these are sort of interesting nuances that make it different from Janna top. But it is like, I mean, I was saying this last year at Worlds that I feel like we should have had more support enchanters last year at Worlds. I thought we were gonna see Sona. That's how bought into the enchanter thing I was all the way last year in like October, August. I thought we should have been seeing Sona at Worlds. And we said on a previous podcast that Janna top probably would have worked at last year Worlds without objective bounties because that's how broken enchanters are. And you know what? They didn't get any changes from preseason. I think they got one item that no one buys, and it's the Evershroud item, right? That's
That's
the
for
only.
tanks.
That's for tanks. That's the only item that supports got. And enchanters didn't change from last year to this year at all. In fact, bruisers got less HP. So I think that it really calls for an enchanter rework because, like, the Church of Ellis, whatever it is, it's just the right way to draft. I think is need, if you have a bunch of enchanters, you're gonna win. It's too broken. It's too strong. And yeah, they're doing it. Good for them. Honestly, everybody should have been doing it last year because it was also good last year. And I mean, respect to LS when he's right. And you know what? When he's wrong, he's wrong. But when he's right, he's been right since last year about it. And I've agreed with it. Yeah. So good for Cloud9, I guess.
I don't think it's been a secret that enchanters have been broken. I'm just happy it's been brought to the light, so maybe they'll get nerfed for a change.
Yeah, but no one was willing to play it in pro.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
No one wanted to swallow their ego.
So
That's
good,
the thing.
good for
That's the
LS.
thing. It's an ego question, right? Because Ellis has been right for a long time about how strong these are. We've been talking about it too. And at the end of the day, like you try telling like a Kobe or LeBron, like, hey, you gotta go like, I don't know, you gotta. I don't know what there's not really a basketball equivalent to be fair. It's like I guess you gotta go for the threes that like, and then instead of going for a dunk, right? Like a dunk just feels better, right? And you're like, you can miss though. What if I don't get my CS or whatever? Like, oh no, it doesn't matter. It's OP to just hit 65% of your threes. That's actually pretty high, but hitting that many threes, right? So if you just look at the numbers, it's always been there and it's always been that strong. But like, how many pro players want to be known as like what do you think Faker wants to be known as the Yumi player? I mean, okay, Faker actually got excited when he heard Soraka.
Yes, he did.
He was like, I told you or something like that. I heard that.
He was one of the best Lulu mids ever.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, Lulu mid actually did some damage too. Like Lulu mid was kind of good in a lot of ways. And that was just absurd. My point is that like, I think it's good that LS is winning here. I will say, temper it a little bit. EG should have won. I mean, that game was an EG win, and they threw the ball. There was just like they got the Olaf rolling in a game where it was so free for them. They had prio and everything. Now that being said, I thought those were some of the most exciting games I've seen in a while. Have you ever seen a Golden Guardian versus anybody game week one have like 2,000 or 4,000 upvotes on Reddit? I have never seen that in my life. I've never seen a game. No, I rarely see a game one of any of the elite teams. Right? This was in the same day with 100 Thieves and TL doing their match. Right, the first and second place of last season. Some of the most powerful rosters, and they're like 800. Right, what you expect. So I thought it was super exciting. I thought it was cool that they were falling behind, right, in terms of gold, but it didn't matter. And they showed everyone like this is how OP it is. If you don't respect this, which I'm sure teams will slowly start to respect it, then we will beat you. And let's be clear, like LS isn't just an enchanter player. He just wants to pick whatever he thinks is the best way to win, right?
Yeah.
He used to play like Mundo mid or whatever, just because he's like, this is the best thing that like I can offer the team. So I think that this will force the league to adapt, and I'm actually excited that it might force people to start respecting like the kinds of drafts that we're trying out here, because and it's doesn't have a lot to lose, and there's a team ready to go down with the ship and just pick whatever is the strongest on that patch, right?
Yep.
If League gets patched a lot, that's good for us. We get an edge on like some crazy strategies that only like fringe teams would try out. Like imagine if T1 actually got Ellis as a coach and they were trying strats like this. I would be terrified. Like they may not win Worlds, but they would be one of the scariest teams at Worlds.
It'd definitely be weird. It'd be very weird.
It would be.
It'd be such a weird world.
Oh my goodness.
Just a comment on that though, right? Like the excitement behind it. I think it is exciting because, right? Like I don't know. So the EG C9 game, I agree with you that EG threw away. They got that early invade, right? So they did everything almost exactly correct of how to beat the strategy. You invade the Erlof on his early clear, and then you win, right? You have Xin Zhao Tryndamere, you're gonna win that against Camille Olaf, and they did. They counter jungle him. They got a bunch of kills early, right? Pretty sure Summit has started both of his LCS games 0-1. So they did that right, and then you know what? They spent their gold wrong. They didn't buy Grievous Wounds immediately. If they bought Grievous Wounds immediately, that crazy fight at Dragon where Olaf killed everybody with 1 HP, right? You even saw Jojo Pune flash into a 1 HP Olaf, and the Olaf just won, right? Like, imagine if he has Grievous Wounds, game's over. EG wins. EG wins, like, one Executioners, one whatever the Morello's thing is, right? Yeah.
Oblivorb, I think.
Oblivorb, yeah. The game's over. They win. They're ahead. They have the champions. They have a Tryndamere top. They have enough scaling. They have Grievous Wounds. They just win the game. But they didn't do it. And I think it's kind of interesting to be like, this is an intelligence check. How smart are you? It's not just like, how good are you? How smart are you? And yeah, it was a little disappointing because it would have been nice for EG to pull it off. Because C9 is kind of just, I don't know, they're getting jerked off when they really didn't do anything too special. I think Berserker played pretty well, but he, like, there's this one play that everyone was like, Berserker's insane, right? Like, it's against Golden Guardians. And it's like, dude, he got like 2k in shields, man.
He would have died if they didn't just greet the Flash, by the way. He greeted Flash when he was at 1 health and then lethal. So, again, I mean, it was sick in the moment, right? Like, I get hyped from plays like that because every huge outplay also has misplay involved. But the misplay, like, I mean, it wasn't that hard.
It's like running in 1v3 to a dude with, like, an Ivern and Sona. And I'm like, he got, like, 2k in shields. And you're running in 1v1.
Flashing in, too. Like, there's no way he knew he would survive, right? He thought he survived, but he almost died multiple times. That shield break was pretty clean.
Yeah. Good on Renekton for breaking that shield, right? And then, he gets another 1,000 in shield right after, a second after he breaks all the shields. It's just like, dude, that Berserker, okay, he played it probably as well as he could, but it was not that hard. I could have played it like that if I'm getting that many shields, man, and I have that many chakrams. So I would like to see Cloud9 taken down a peg because EG almost did it. Just buy Grievous Wounds, they win the game. 100% at 5 minutes. They beat C9. So
yeah, whatever. I mean, I think of course there's always gonna be, you know, and now that they picked it, I mean, I'm not sure if they scrimmed it or not. They probably did. I'm not sure, but whatever the case is,
they did not scrim it. They scrimmed it internal 1v1s. Apparently, Fudge learned the Ivern, how to play Ivern like the day of or the day before, and he played. He didn't play a single game of Soraka, or like he played like 1 game of Soraka before playing it.
And that's why, and that's what I mean. Like, I think now that teams are aware, like, of you know, this type of pick, I think it definitely might be tempered a little bit. So
there's no skill if you could do that, and then you're like, okay, Jojo Pu's put in 1,000 games of Victor. Fudge played 1 game of Soraka.
I think he went like 0-5 that game too, or something.
Is there one enchanter that requires a decent amount of skill? Is there one? I can't think of any.
Okay.
Nami requires some skill.
There's skill expression.
Her spells are hard to hit. Like, that wave is the slowest thing this side of the game, right?
I hate it too when I'm playing Nami and they want me to engage, and I'm like, I'm not the engage. You know how slow this thing goes? Like, they don't even need a
skill. Nami is scary, man. They actually know how to pressure into bubble.
Nami does require.
But she's also not meta because she's skill based.
Yeah, but that's not a thing right now.
Yeah, okay. Pre-rework Janna required actual skill too, because her Qs were much slower.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't me trying to hate on support or like enchanter players, but that is a part of the problem that we have, where it's like, well, this has been a thing for. Oh yeah, let me just first time this champ on LCS stage. Oh wow, we just smacked them.
If you saw the early lane, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, I think, you know, the problem is that it's still like a game that appeals to the masses, right? And if you want a low barrier to entry, if you don't know much about the game or don't have great mechanics like myself, you can pick easy champions like, you know, enchanters and have impact in the game. Like, as an enchanter, you feel like, yeah, I'm really impacting the game. The problem is, like you said, is if you get somebody who's actually good, like picking up then this, you know, it just makes it beyond broken, beyond busted. And I think that's what's hard, is that seeing in pro play.
way too high.
I completely agree. What I'm trying to say is my biggest problem with them is the very low amount of effort you need to put in for the reward to be just so insanely high. I personally think like I'm not gonna, obviously this isn't really doable, but like if I could have my way, I would just say, yeah, if you're gonna play something that's much harder to play, you're gonna be rewarded more.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not really doable, but the person who's playing Ivern should not have Ivern mid first time should not be doing more in a game than the person who's put 700 games on Aphelios, or at least Sin. Obviously not realistic, but
Jojo also didn't know how Soraka worked really, in the lane dynamic. He didn't punish it as correctly. He died to that very obvious Olaf is coming mid and there's a Soraka there. What do you think is about to happen, Jojo? There was a little quip from his coach Peter Donna, who he mentioned in a VOD review. Jojo said when he saw GP crit with barrel, he's like, GP can crit with barrels? Yeah. And the team just looked at him. So, the guy is literally just learning the game. He's mechanically very talented.
Yeah.
But he's not the one you're looking to punish that lane, right? I would rather, Abadage or Bjergsen or someone who, has played the game for a long time, knows what Raka does, maybe has laned against one before, play against it, and then see what happens. And now that the cat's out of the bag, everyone's going to practice for it. I think the game is healthier when we have these cool strats and there's counterplay to it. To me, it was absolutely asinine to see MF, Zyra, Bot, and MF Ashe and all those things. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But it was cool. I'm glad they added those options because
for a short time,
creativity for a short time, and it's only been a week, right, of pro play.
Yes, please.
So don't make it the meta forever. Hopefully, don't keep it at MSI. But hey, let it breathe. Nerf it down a bit so it's still usable, but you actually have to put time into it. I think that one of the most cursed things we could do in League right now is have a cool strat available and the teams not practice it because they know it will be nerfed. Yeah. Riot has done it sometimes, not always, but they have done it sometimes, which I think is the reason why you only saw Janna top from the bottom team. It wasn't banned. It was only banned once, I think, and played once. Or maybe it was played twice and it just wants to support one top lane.
Yeah, the other teams know it's going to get deleted from the game.
Which is why they're not wasting their practice time. But if they let it live for longer, then teams will be rewarded and incentivized to be creative. Now, I'm not saying keep this exact creativity thing, but you got to start the precedent somewhere. This is a very meaningful, everyone can see it, very visible thing. So got to reward teams for practicing creative stuff. If you just get nerfed 2 weeks after you invent Heimerdinger 80 carry, then who's going to practice Heimerdinger 80 carry other than Hiara?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah,
it is always it's always a risk too, because like you said, you only have but a finite amount of time to practice and invest in, and so where are you going to put that in something that is not going anywhere, like the traditional ways of playing, or these new strategies. And that's why I do think that sometimes even if something is broken for so long, teams won't really dive into it because it's a risk. They don't know if it'll be nerfed or if it'll still be in the game or viable. So why take that chance? But let's move on a little bit and talk about some of the other teams, because our key match that we wanted to highlight from last week that we talked about was Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves. And the question was, would 100 Thieves bounce back? And Team Liquid was on this hot streak, and unfortunately, we all predicted Team Liquid, and they lost. So I want to get your quick thoughts on that game, just in general. You can talk about either the teams, because again, 100 Thieves bouncing back, going 2-0. Team Liquid, they beat them after their win in lock-in. But to me, just my biggest quirk about that game was I did not like that Renekton pick by Whippo. It was just
terrible.
Was terrible to me, and I honestly think that's what lost in the game. That's what I think. I think they just couldn't deal with there wasn't enough pressure with that Renekton on a side lane, and as the game kept going on, even though he was a little fed, what's he gonna do? It's late game. Renekton's not gonna do anything. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat. I did not like the Renekton in this case, and I feel like they kind of had Renekton and they had Jarvan for early game, but then other than that, it felt like they didn't really have a win condition, because they have Orianna, Jinx, who both really want to scale, but on the enemy team you have Ornn, Azir, and Aphelios. It's okay, well, what's what does Renekton plan on doing if this game goes past 25 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's never going to beat Ornn in the side lane at that point unless he's ultra fed. He can't team fight because he has Renekton against Azira, Felios, and Xin Zhao. I just they almost won, and I would say that TL could have closed that game out if they had played some macro better, in my opinion. But I don't know. I feel like once the game hit the 30-minute mark, it was done.
Yeah, I have actually a different take on it. I actually think that I hated the Renekton pick, but he did get a massive CS lead and very head in lane, right?
He
So that's
did.
what he's supposed to do.
Yep.
Just going to do it. I think that his build choice to build Hullbreaker was actually terrible. I get that it's a great item when you're just 1v1, but he should have built Black Cleaver. He would have been able to actually win the 1v1 against Ornn if he built that item, but he didn't get a Last Whisper until very late into the game. So I think that could have made a big difference. But the real big difference was the macro in that they let Aphelios get Chakrams, and then they were able to sneak a Baron. Everybody was alive on the map, and then 100 Thieves took a Baron in front of C9 or in front of Team Liquid's face, and that's what really changed the game because Team Liquid was ahead in gold the entire series, or the entire game. 100 Thieves snuck a Baron, and then they traded a 1-for-1 kill, and then all of a sudden 100 Thieves they're even in gold, but they had permanent tempo for the rest of the game. They were there first at every time, and then they went to the second Baron, and they had so much tempo that like even though TL was basically in position, they couldn't do anything about it because 100 Thieves was just so far ahead in tempo, even though the gold was the same. And it's kind of like this imaginary sort of income or currency of tempo, right? But I was noticing it was like it just felt like 100 Thieves was there first, and they always had the setup and the vision. And Team Liquid didn't matter that they had more gold or better champions in the early game, they could not face check. They could not enter places. They had to catch waves while 100 Thieves was doing something else already. So that was really what did it for me. I felt like the draft, although could have been better from Team Liquid, it was not what lost them the game. I think they could have still won with that draft.
I do agree. I just want to say one thing before you go, Kevin, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I just want to explain the concept of tempo because not everyone's going to understand that. Tempo is essentially how fast a game is going and who's in control at that time. So high tempo would be, you're using Rift Herald and you're pushing down 2 towers. At the same time, your bot lane's pushing in tower. That kind of thing. Low tempo, your typical Korean game that everyone, like the stereotypical Korean slow fest.
Everyone's farming. Yeah.
Yeah, like you whittle down one turret, and you're like, yeah, we got it. We got our objective. It's like, okay, I mean, you did. I think Liquid's comp was fine, sans like the Renekton sort of. Like, I think Renekton is okay, but Renekton's always a kind of a cursed pick in that it looks good when it works because it sets up ganks better than pretty much any other meta top laner other than maybe Camille. But when it's bad, it just looks absolutely worthless, right? So I was fine with him picking up. Bubbles picked a lot of weird stuff and played in lots of weird ways. So I'm sure he had an idea what he wanted to do, and they just didn't execute on it. I don't think they expected Ornn. I think that Ornn did a lot of stuff to just mitigate Renekton's ability to dive, Renekton's ability to snowball the lead and just push waves with Hullbreaker, or push down the lane with Hullbreaker. And like you even saw at the end, right? Bubble was just losing 1v1s. It was pretty sad to watch.
Yeah.
So,
Black Cleaver would have changed that.
Yeah, Black Cleaver would have changed that in the 1v1. This is true. But again, Ornn was just destined to be more useful, Black Cleaver or not. He might have been pressured, but he would have been a better pick or a better component, right? So I think they just kind of somehow forgot that there was Ornn on the other side. I think Liquid drafted fine. Otherwise, Han Sama played pretty solid and got 2 max items. He just couldn't get enough space to play the game because Xin Zhao just operates a no-go zone. I thought Abadagi played not that great, actually, and I thought Bjergsen was okay. So I'm okay with this game. Liquid does look pretty bad against 100 Thieves in their last 4 meetings now, from finals until now. So that's a little concerning, but until Core JJ comes back, I'm copiuming a little bit, but I don't care too much that they lost. I still think Liquid should have won, but I think 100 Thieves did play better today.
Okay, cool. Anything else on 100 Thieves? TL. How about let's talk about EG because they're the other top 4 team, right? And they were the finalists in lock-in, and they went 1-1 as well as Team Liquid this weekend. We talked about some of the matches that they had, like the C9 one. But any thoughts on them? Like, what has your viewpoint on them changed at all from what you've seen? From JoJo, Danny had that penta on Zeri.
Whatever. No.
Yeah. Anything on them? Good.
I
Not
think.
that I think we've already said now.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
Because we talked a lot about EG when we were
Yep.
talking about C9. I think that what was it? Summit came out with an interview saying that Impact was like the only real person he's played against that actually feels like he knows what to do in lane,
Mm.
something along those lines. And it's pretty cool to see that Impact's been playing for like 9 to 11 years
Yeah,
of League
he's
of
still good.
Legends. One of the oldest players in the entire history of the game. Is still clapping Summit sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, I think Summit actually had a really unimpressive entrance into
I agree.
LCS,
Yeah.
considering how hyped he was. I think Berserker and Winsome, they definitely stole away the spotlight. And Summit actually kind of looked bad, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, kudos to Impact, though. I think he's a great player, and I think he's just always going to be good at the game. If you've been this good for 11 years, I don't think adding a couple of years here and there is ever going to change that, right? So
Right.
Impact's probably always going to be one of the best top laners NA will ever see. So that's pretty exciting.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to see somebody who's been in the game for so long still be good, still be relevant.
Yeah.
Let me
Really
highlight.
dead, yeah.
Let me highlight one more team I wanted to highlight a little bit is Dignitas, because we talked about this little hype train and we talked about this dude. You may have heard of him. His name is River. And he did get J4 in both of their games again.
Yep.
And this
Yep.
has been the constant wonder, and I think they even talked about this on the dive, because people are responding, well, the only reason they've been winning is because they've been getting J4, and
Yep.
they used River's amazing pathing in early game to get this lead for his team, and so they did win. Wasn't great competition, the teams they were playing, and he also got his J4, but look, they're winning, and if anything, like, they do look like the best of the bottom tier teams. So I just wanted to highlight that and see if you guys had any thoughts. If not, it's cool, but just wanted to point that out.
The only thing I have to really say is I'm not a huge fan of the whole narrative of Dig only wins when Jarvan, because we've only really seen a couple of games on other champions, and those were against like Team Liquid.
Yeah.
No one really expects Dig to beat Liquid at all, really.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just say, oh, River can only play Jarvan, when you saw him make it to top 4 in MSI, playing not a single game of Jarvan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was playing Lee Sin and Graves and stuff, yeah.
Exactly. So like you can't just say, oh, he can only play Jarvan. He came in late, so they probably don't have practice on a lot of other champs, and Jarvan's very, very easy to execute.
He's very good right now.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that Jarvan is both very good, and both he and his team are really good at playing with J4. Like, he brings a lot of tools that other champions don't, right? And he has a lot of weaknesses that other champions don't, right? His dueling is just not going to be as good as Xin Zhao or Lee Sin, but his engage and his CC is always going to be better. His mobility is going to be on par, though, right? He can go over a lot of walls, very low cooldowns. I'm going to go with I don't think Dig looks like half the team they are without J4. I think that if you ban J4 and you take it away from this team, unless they prepare something, they actively scrim and prepare 2 or 3 jungle picks that are not J4 and they get really good at those, I think that J4 is going to be the best pick for Dignitas and that their win rate will be much higher with it than without it. And I think that if you want an easy win against Dignitas and you know you're better, don't give them J4 and you'll probably stop them.
Yeah.
If you're an even team with Dignitas, just ban J4 because you will lose.
Yeah.
You will 100% lose. If you're lower in the standings than Dignitas and you give them J4, you're not going to win. River's too good. River will gap the enemy jungler.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. Yeah.
Okay.
Only thoughts I wanted to bring up is I thought Bio played quite well.
Yes,
Like,
I
I
was
think
gonna
that,
say.
like, I guess it's easier now to say after watching Lock-In and this first weekend that he probably just had an off year when he was last in pro play, and then he took like that whole time off, and he came back, and he still looks as solid as ever. I mean, Neo is still a good player too, and so with them together, that's actually a good bot lane to build off of. I think the only thing that like really stuck out to me other than that was the fact that like we have enough sample size to know that Blue is not the worst mid laner ever. I don't know where he lies. Like, it's still hard to tell, right? Because when you're winning against weaker teams, you're going to look good. But he hasn't power into. He hasn't done anything that like remotely reminds me of what I saw last year, right, in LEC. And like, to be fair, I didn't see a lot because once I saw the SK on the match schedule, I'm like, I'm not gonna watch that game. So I think that there's like pieces there. Fake God's gonna be an obvious list. Like, he needs to find a meta that fits him. Maybe he should join the Janna meta. I don't know, but
yeah, there you go.
He's fine when they're winning, but when they're behind, he's often the reason. That's the biggest problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, he can actually be even good when they're winning. It's just that you're not always going to be in a winning map state, right? That's why you want players like Impact or Whippo who can like make things happen from a bad map state or not tilt or like die 3 times on weak side, but you know you're winning elsewhere, like net winning because of how much time you're wasting, right? So I haven't seen that from Fake God, and that's kind of disappointing because he was pretty decent back in the day. As far as like rookie-ish talent, he's been in the scene for a while, like in the academy scene for a while.
He's been in top level LCS since 2018 when he joined 100 Thieves with Amazing. So he has been here for quite a while, actually.
Yeah, but he was like fairly promising back then, right? That's why I was like, because as far as NA tops go, which we don't have a great history of NA tops.
I think he sucks. I think his mechanics are so ass. I'm just gonna be honest.
I mean, right now, I agree for sure. Like the last 2 years or 3 years now, yeah. But I think when he entered, he was above average for a rookie top laner.
He was okay, yeah.
He hasn't mentally recovered from the LCS bullying him.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say this.
It's all downhill.
That would hurt, man. That would hurt so bad. That was so uncalled for. I'm gonna hold that against them, the LCS, forever. They did him dirty.
Yeah.
Hey, ended that man's career.
I mean, wasn't he the one that had that one highlight on Impact when he first came in? That was him, right? Wasn't it Fake God and Impact? Yeah, it was.
Yes, because I remember because I was a Liquid fan still then, as always.
Yeah.
And
so that's what makes it even more.
I think
that's what makes it even harder with that graphic.
Regardless, I think that Fake God is serviceable in terms of late game, maybe team fighting, and he's like okay in easy lane matchups. But if he tries to go for a 1v1 against a slightly good top laner, he always loses. It doesn't matter. He just always gets outplayed. I think he's just bad, honestly. When you look at a player and like the choices they make and the kind of like the micro moves, the way they click, the way they kind of angle their character and the way they like maybe like position themselves in lane, I can just tell against better players he's so much worse. He doesn't understand the smaller mind games that are happening in top lane, where you can definitely see that Blippo, Impact, a lot of top laners, they know what's going on at a deeper level. I feel like Fake God is like, he still hasn't gotten there, and I don't think he will get there. That I think he's just gonna be bad. Yeah. And that's just my take.
I do have one thing to add to that, though. At least Fake God has been worth talking about, for better or for worse, way more than TSM.
Yeah,
one thing we mentioned at the end of last week's episode, right?
Yeah.
Actually, this is something that Alistar brought up, so I'm going to give him credit for this. We didn't talk about TSM once in like the last 2 or 3 podcasts.
And I was actually going to bring them up today because I wanted to talk about specifically
how ass they are.
Their new, well, yes, but also I wanted to talk about their new players, Keidu and Shenyi, because this is their debut. I didn't get to see it, but I guess Keidu streamed. Is that how you say it? Is it Kaido?
I don't know.
So in Chinese, like it's like Kaido, but I don't know what he would say.
I'm gonna just say Kaido.
I'm
gonna say Kaido. So he was streaming, and apparently it was a good time. People said his personality's great. And apparently he's supposed to be a pretty good mid laner. What were your thoughts on him? I know TSM did not look great as a team. But this is another Zoomer team banking on new young talent. I didn't think Kaido was that amazing, but I also didn't think he was that. I don't think he was that bad either. But what were your thoughts?
Honestly, I don't really have many thoughts on either of them, or TSM in general. Really, I mean,
So we didn't need to talk about them. We could have skipped.
I mean, yeah, we definitely.
I just think it's interesting that we didn't talk about them.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was going for when I said it. I don't know. I feel like these two rookies. I have nothing against them, but at the same time, I feel like they didn't do a great job of marketing themselves, or TSM didn't do a good job of marketing them, or something. Because honestly, I wouldn't have remembered their names. Actually, I didn't remember the mid laner's name. I remembered Shenyi because I've heard his name a couple times, but I had really no hype coming into the split of, like, I had no expectations for TSM anyways. I mean, when we look at JoJo, he's also a rookie. He did a great job, and EG did a great job of marketing him, saying, we got Inspired over because we showed Inspired this highlight reel of our mid laner and how cracked he is and all this, and there was nothing like that for these two. And marketing is such a big deal for rookies if you want to be in the scene for a while. I don't know. I mean, I still feel bad for Spica, for sure, but no, that's really all I have to say about TSM.
Okay. What I have to say about TSM is tactical sucks. Holy crap. What a big downfall to being one of the most promising rookies NA has seen in a very long time, to absolutely crashing and burning. He ended his year on Team Liquid looking pretty bad on a roster that almost made it out of groups, to looking like the worst player on a team with two rookies.
And Huni.
And Huni. This guy's been around for 2 years now. He is not a rookie. He's not a young player even. He is, I wouldn't say a seasoned player, but he is probably a year away from being called a seasoned player. Yeah. Right? Like, this is just unacceptable, honestly. If you're tactical, like, honestly, dude, you're playing Zeri and you're not even AP and you're standing there trying to outburst a Victor. That was the most questionable thing I've ever seen. He walks up to Victor to 1v1 him. He presses Alt W and he thinks he's going to outburst him and he just gets one shot. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like, so that's my main thing. Honestly, I can't even judge Shenyi because his ADC is so bad. And honestly, in such a terrible team, I think KD actually played pretty well. So I have high prospects for the rookies. It's the rest of the team I'm worried about. Tactical, glaringly disappointing. Huni, irrelevant. Spica, almost irrelevant. So
what's Spica gonna do with 3 losing lanes?
Exactly. So this team is just gonna suck until everybody starts playing better. Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
Rebuilding year. Yep.
I give Kaido a little bit of credit. TSM did put out some pretty funny stream highlights and he was just streaming in general, but there were stream highlights over Reddit, and the broadcast actually put him on right before their match. I watched the pregame show, and they put on a really funny clip, and it was pretty endearing. Honestly, I saw the Twitch chat and they were all like, "Oh, Pog, this guy's pretty cool." If the fact of the matter is TSM's not the TSM we know. Yeah. None of TSM is around. Reggie is MIA, just he's
Parth
disappeared.
Is gone. Yeah.
And Parth is gone, Lena's gone, Double's gone. Everyone you liked on TSM. Beard is gone, which is the biggest thing, right? Everything you liked on TSM is gone or under investigation. So, I mean, we'll figure out where that goes, right? Yeah. But that's the real issue, right? It's just like if FlyQuest in the past, right, had a super good video. Would you know about it? Would you actually be following it unless you were one of the 100 FlyQuest fans in the universe?
Or it got posted on Reddit 15 times, right? That's the only way I would.
Yeah, they get posted, right? It's not that they're not doing good content. I actually, if you look at that, Kaido's he's yelling, and he just looks like a Bay Life TSM guy. It's just that there's not the rest of the squad to be cool and interesting around. I actually thought it was pretty likable.
I didn't see that clip until LCS showed it. I did not see the clip. It wasn't on Reddit anywhere. I check Reddit multiple times a day. I had
seen the clip on Reddit, but it was during it wasn't super high up. It was
exactly
20 something. I was like, okay, look, a TSM clip.
You know what I mean?
So that's what I have for that. Yeah, poor guy. I think his game 1 was fine. He was down CS in the Rise Victor matchup, but he managed to have very good maneuvering. He outplayed Impact that 1v1. That was really clean stuff into the nice. Queue. I'm like, oh, that's pretty clean. He knows what he's doing. And Impact was oh wait, I totally got schooled there. So I'll give him respect for that. I think Shenny's actually good, by the way, just legit. I don't know if Tactical is any good at all after watching this weekend, but it's only been 1 week, right? But Shenny's good. That 1v1 where they got first blood on Danny, in the bot lane duel. Like,
oh yeah, it was good to
he
go
played
on
that
Danny,
super
yeah.
clean, and then he got a huge engage in the late game right before they lost. He got a huge like 3 or 4 man rel engage, like perfect engage, and the team just sat there and watched. Like it wasn't that like they were like, oh, we like a calculate, we can't win this fight. Why are you engaging? It's like that was a good engage. You might still lose, but you guys should go in and commit damage. And they just sat there, languished around, and got pentakill. No, maybe that wasn't the pentakill fight, but they got wiped afterward. So
9-man sleep.
Like, he was a good player. I thought that was fine. And if they take Spica off of Poppy duty and like actually have him play something proactive like every other good jungler in the league is doing, they might actually get somewhere. So first week, not impressed, but like, what were you gonna do on Poppy 2 games in a row? Like, what was that?
Yeah.
Poppy can be good, but Spica doesn't need to be the Poppy. I feel like he should be playing.
I think it was for the J4 soft counter. Is why they picked Poppy,
okay, so do we want to talk about this? Because I have a lot of opinions about J4.
I'm done talking about TSM. That's
No,
all.
let's not talk about.
I don't think we need to go too in depth. I think it's a pretty obvious counter.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yes, but it's like not that good of a counter, man.
I agree. I agree.
It's
so
like
overrated.
It's not worth it. I think. Yeah, it's like a soft counter, and I don't think it's worth it to just pick him just for that specific.
I'm
purpose.
actually like honestly, when I look at drafts, I would rather be the J4 like 9 times out of 10.
Yeah,
even though there's a Poppy.
agree.
Like the 1v1 sucks, but I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
J4, man. So
okay,
I hate it.
Let's go. I want to move on to outside of the pro thing and get to this, what I think is really cool by Riot, and that's Champions Queue, because this thing I think is going to be our answer to getting our competition better. So let me just briefly explain what it is if you haven't heard what it is, or maybe you've seen it but didn't read all the details. Well, here it is. All right, so it's a queue specifically made for LCS and Academy players, along with the top 16 amateur teams, LCS alumni, and players from the LLA region. There's also going to be an open application for high-level players. I believe it's Masters and above. Some of the things they mentioned is that champion pool will be considered when considering somebody to get in or not. So One Tricks probably won't be able to get in. It'll have to be somebody with at least a small champion pool. So some of the features: automatic lobby creation, player invites. They're going to have comm channels. There's match result reporting, and it's going to be on the tournament realm alongside the live patch. And then some other notes: it's open daily from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Eastern time, and 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays. Players are allowed to stream it, which is what I was talking about earlier, and that's what I've been seeing a lot on Twitter, is that people are going crazy for watching these games, because it is really cool, what we touched on before, to see actual good players playing and working together as a team, trying out different strategies like the Janna top in a semi competitive environment. And so the council, I guess, of all these players, they also have the power to remove players. So if they start sucking, they can be booted out. And the craziest thing is that there's money involved. So there's a prize pool of 400K split between 3 seasons and 7 splits. So there's going to be a spring and summer seasons with 3 splits each, and then the preseason with 1 split. And then the prizes are going to be given out at the end of each split in each season. So that's a lot of stuff to say, but the main gist and the main thing that I am hype about is that we finally have a server full of people who are serious about getting better, creates an environment where most people are skilled in the game and they can try out new strategies, new things that, normally they wouldn't be able to try out in solo queue. There's communication. So, talking about the co-stream earlier, how we get to hear people's insights on the game. Well, now we can actually see, like, I was just watching the game with Core JJ, Strumpus was in it, some other high elo players, and just hearing them communicate on what to do really opened my eyes. And I was like, if people start watching these games, I think the community could legit get better. Like, even us plebs in, regular solo queue, like, if we just watch those things, you're like, oh, that's why they do those things, or that's what I should do. And hopefully that trickles down, but I'm really excited for what it could do potentially for, like, our competitive environment and in the international stage. So I said a lot of stuff, but I want to know your thoughts on this, because there are, believe it or not, people who are not liking this thing, because I think they're saying it's going to make regular solo queue even worse because everybody's going to be on this new server and people are like, well, I'm not invited, and they're getting butthurt a little bit. So anyways, give me your thoughts on this, guys.
I personally love it. I mean, I'm hoping I'll be on it in a month or two.
That'd be great.
I'm already getting close to Masters, so hopefully when more people actually start getting in, I'll get a chance. We'll have to see how that goes. See if I can climb. But overall, I haven't caught many of the streams. I've caught a lot of them. Or sorry, I haven't caught a lot of them. I caught only a few. I think it's great. I like what they're doing. The money. I mean, even without the money, I still think it would be a great thing to do. And isn't the prize pool bigger than the LCS prize pool?
Yep.
Yeah.
Although it's 7 splits, versus one split at LCS, but yes.
Still,
I think one split of the Champions queue is still bigger than lock-in, I think, or it's close to whatever the lock-in prize was.
I think.
So it's still a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but my thoughts on it are obviously it's great. I just want to be the downer.
Yes,
as
do it.
As I love to be. If you compare this to what other regions are getting, LCK, LPL, it's still nowhere close, right?
it's a start.
It's a start,
Yes.
but if we're gonna talk about being competitive with LCK, LPL, and doing some damage internationally, right? We're a long way from getting there because this is such a far cry from replicating Korean solo queue. Because one of the pros of Korean solo queue is that not only do you have all the pro players and all the academy players playing just like Champions queue, but you have random people with their own ideas and innovations and ways to impact the game. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, it's good to an extent that there are no one tricks allowed in Champions queue, but sometimes that's where the best ideas that come to pro players are from playing with and against one tricks. And in Korean solo queue, where the quality is so much higher, the one tricks probably add more than they take away from in NA solo queue. Honestly, NA solo queue is probably worse off with one tricks, but because the dynamic is so different in Korea, it probably helps there, right? So I would say the only really upside of something like Champions queue is that, well, in Korea, you don't have a guy, he gets first blooded and he buys 7 tiers and he runs it down in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So that happens in Korea a lot. But the nice thing is,
Yeah.
the game's over at 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
You just get to go on. In NA, the game goes on for 30 minutes
Yeah, it
because no one's
does.
FFing. No one's FFing. Your Janna has been buying tiers since minute 5, but you're still not FFing for some reason. So that's gonna be the nice thing for Champions queue. But they gotta make Champions queue big enough, and they have it really well moderated for them to emulate something like Korean solo queue.
Yeah.
And until we do that, we're not gonna beat them. We're just gonna be inferior mechanically.
But the biggest question though is will we be better than LEC? That's all that really matters. That's all that really matters.
Until we get NA Masters, probably not.
I will say that, okay, so I've played on China Ionia 1, which was their best server until they made their own super server. I've been in low diamond in that server before. And having played there and seen the level, it was much higher than what we had here, I think there's just infinitely more talent there. Because there's not per capita, but just because there's just so many people, right, on the server. They're 50 to 100 times, depending on what numbers you believe, amount of player base in China. And then they play on Korea, the best ones, right? So that's something we have to get over. However, there's a lot of things going in our favor with the server. First of all, servers on the West Coast. We're finally getting real ping for pro players.
Yeah,
excellent.
That's great.
Much less toxic. If these people are streaming, this is the first time that we're going to be able to hear live comms, which we just don't get. We get a leaked scrim maybe. We'll get a show match, right? For fun, we'll hear some comms. We never hear live comms, right? And so that's not just going to help the people playing. It's going to inspire people to be like, hey, when I'm in my Clash team, when I'm coming up with my amateur squad, this is what the good players are doing, or learn from them. Also, we have an edge over the Korean server because there's the tier and the run it down culture, or not the open culture right there.
Yeah.
But they also have a pretty anti one trick culture to some extent at the highest levels. Because you watch Calcet play there, I watched him for the longest time. That guy got it might also be a race thing, but let's just stick with the one trick thing.
Yeah.
He's a master E main, right? Very good. At least master level at any given time. Sometimes worse, sometimes better. he gets run it down on all the time for playing a character that's not meta. And there are other factors, I know, but at the very least, he's not playing a character that's like conducive to what people think is the best way to win, even though he can show performances on it, right? When you have live voice comps, like this is a whole different world. Yeah. You can actually coordinate team comps. Like we have a huge edge over, I don't know if Super Server has it, but every other server does not have live comms. Like that's huge.
Through a Discord channel. So
sure.
If they wanted to make it, they could. It's just no one's.
Sure, but like, do you really want to get in a Discord channel with your solo queue teammates? Do you really?
If you're the I have done it a few times this season. It's been a blast.
It is, but like you can't incentivize everyone to do it, and the system only works and makes real change when everyone is like opted in, and they have to purposely opt out to avoid it, right?
Make League voice better. Maybe people will do it.
Also, the last point, because this was a long point. We actually have an edge over a lot of servers because while we don't have a player population that high, we are absorbing so much talent from the rest of the world that can finally just practice with each other. The more we import, the better this super server gets. Like the other super servers have a lot of dilution of talent because it's D1 plus, right? And that you just get auto invited and you can get kicked out. That's how I understand the Chinese super server. In Korea, you can't get kicked out, period, right? Right now, we're like taking pros from LLA, pros from SEA, pros from EU, pros from Korea. They're just all there. Like C9 has like a whole extra team to practice with, right? So put that all into a place with voice comms, and we're actually going to get an edge at least over LEC. We already outperformed them at Worlds. Like I have no doubt that in a year, if it's well moderated and well, like you incentivize, right? You kick people out, you add people in. Yep. I think we're going to beat LEC unless they do the same thing.
I would definitely agree with you because I think the other thing that's really important is we're not gonna have in this server there isn't gonna be people like Tyler 1, like Tarzan, like Quant.
Oh, Kevin's about to lose it.
I wasn't ready for that. Sorry.
I mean, it's been a big problem for years now, and a lot of challenger players they complain about these people. Yeah. It's like they aren't necessarily playing to get better. They're playing because it gives them money.
Yeah, they're playing for views. They're funny.
Let's be honest. I don't think there's a single high elo player who likes Tarzan.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I have Tarzan on my team. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like with the toxicity, I think if anything, what this does is it just puts the people who are serious about being good. They're already in competitive environments anyways. Like it gives them a place to play rather than just the school playground, right? Like they get to play great pickup games with good communications. And what I love about this is that, again, we saw Core playing Janna top. Like he gets to try these things other than just, scrimming. He could try it in a place where, it can have some coordination and he can really get a feel for it and, see if this thing works or not, doesn't work. He can experiment with that and that sort of thing. But I also think, imagine like the people they're playing with. You have amateur teams on, this is going to be a great way to, I think, network as well. Like imagine an ADC player and a support from totally different teams or whatever. What if they start playing and they realize like, dang, we work really well together, like on comms. I'm just saying like it could lead to, teams forming or partnerships forming or synergies forming that you might have not otherwise known. But now that you're in an environment where everything's competitive and again, finding a teammate on your team that you're just like, whoa, we work really well. We seem to be doing well together might open up some opportunities. So I'm excited about that.
Just be glad that Perks didn't stay. That's all I'm saying. That'd be terrifying. He's like, hey, you want to go to a hot tub sometime? Want to hang out?
Oh my god!
That would become the monster team.
And also too, in a different angle is toxicity, right? Like, you really can't be toxic in this. You will get ousted by individual players, not by a system, not by a tribunal, not by a riot. You will get ousted by the man Core JJ himself. He'll be like, this dude's toxic. I took screenshots and everything. Everybody else was there too. Kick him out of the server.
Yeah.
Boom. Fast as hell. Like, you could have someone like Tyler Run and Tarzan running around in the solo queue making new accounts left and right for years. You say a couple toxic things 2 or 3 games in a row, you're gone from the super server. And you know what? You don't want to be gone from the super server. This is like, not only is this opportunity and like great solo queue experience, like this is like genuine like potential income and like lives for these people, right? So
Scouting
it's pretty exciting. One last fun fact. I heard this either on the Dive or Doublelift's new podcast, Trash Talk. If you combine all of China's servers in all of North America, we have about 1% of the player base of China.
Wow.
1%.
Wow.
I will say that number's definitely inflated because a lot of people they just over-report numbers there because like a lot of people make accounts and like, oh yeah, these all count, right? These were active.
Man.
But so our accounts are also probably actively inflated because if I Smurf, right, and I don't play that often, if I Smurf, that's 2 live accounts, right, this month. So we might only have 500K. I don't know.
I mean, okay, you want to bring it? You want to times it by 10? We have 10% of the population of China. That is ridiculous. It doesn't matter.
I'm not saying it's much better, but I'm just saying like.
Jesus, man. I think Europe has something like 3 or 4% of China's player base. It's there's a big reason why Asia and China is so dang good.
But I mean, the same argument. Korea is also like 3 or 4%, or 2 or 4, whatever it was.
Yeah, and that's impressive. But
so it's still doable. We just have to take all the Koreans that are good, I guess.
The amount of talent that you can farm, right, with that amount of people,
right?
Like, it's not fair.
All right. Well, we've gone about an hour and a half. You know, we definitely didn't get to talk about everything, but I think that's a good segue. Next week, you know, we've got a couple of exciting matches: C9 versus TL and EG versus 100 Thieves. Real quickly, don't have to go too in depth. What are your predictions for those? Let's start off with C9 TL. Just based on what you've seen, go with your gut.
Tough one. I don't know.
I mean, you can just get me out of the way. It's TL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gilead's actually, I think his drafts are good enough. So.
You drafted Renekton, bro.
It almost won. Again, I'm not gonna results base it.
I will say just one more thing on that game is that I did feel like they could win, like you were saying, Mitchell. But there was definitely a point where I was like, once they got past that point, I was like, they're not going to win. It's like that. It's over.
They gave a free Baron, and so they kind of just threw the whole game away.
Right.
And then he didn't build Black Cleaver. I think if they did, honestly, it wasn't even about the free Baron. Honestly, I'm just so upset he didn't build Black Cleaver.
Again, I was like, how is this the draft's fault, right? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not the draft's fault, but it's still like half coach, half player, right?
Right. I agree with.
It's the player's fault that he didn't build Black Cleaver, and it's also the coach's fault that the player was dumb enough to not build Black Cleaver, right?
Yep.
So I'm not saying it's the draft, but Gilhoto should be at least partially to blame for that mistake. Yeah.
I mean, this is true. They're 3 weeks in, so I'm hoping that if these persist, then I lose faith in his coaching ability. But I think the draft has still been fine, which is something I was as happy with.
I'm hoping for something spicy from C9 side, but I'm still going to say TL.
Yeah, I can't wait for spice.
Kevin says TL. What do you, Mitchell, Alistair, your prediction?
We stalled for you guys.
I'll be the guy. I'll say C9.
There he is.
I'll be that guy.
You'll be that guy?
What if they
a lot of guys are saying C9 these days.
Yeah. I'm going to go.
Not on this podcast.
That's true.
I'm going to go TL.
But we don't follow the grain that often, so.
You're not wrong.
We usually go against.
We do tend to be right most of the time.
We're right, and we go against the grain a lot of the time.
Yeah.
We should have a comparison sheet sometime, just like us versus the broadcast prediction.
Ooh, I like that idea.
That's a
great idea.
That would be
we should do that.
I like it.
Post
and
it
then
on
I'll
Twitter.
tweet them. Yeah, exactly. Make sure you got the right idea.
Post it on Twitter at LCS. Everything at.
Dude, I'm sick of them saying like no podcast, no media thought that EDG would win. I'm like, are you serious? We're like 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4. Come on, guys.
I predicted on the very first Worlds podcast EDG was gonna win.
You did.
Okay.
I honestly only watched semifinals and finals too of EDG.
But I mean, you were right. So
yeah, I was right. I guessed it. I'm going Team Liquid. I think that honestly, LS and C9 they showed their cards pretty easily. I from a platinum 1-2 perspective watching, I know how to beat the Enchanter mid comp, and EG was literally almost about to do it if they just built Grievous Wounds. I think Team Liquid can do it if they turn their brains off, right? Turn their brains on, right? They build Grievous Wounds. They freaking stop building Hull Breaker and grouping. I think they can do this. I think they should be able to beat them.
So those two things, that's what they need. No Hull Breaker and grouping, and build Grievous Wounds.
should smack the living crap out of Fudge Soraka, man. It shouldn't even be close. I better
That's what
see
I
it,
want to see.
so.
Okay. What about EG 100 Thieves? Do you think 100 Thieves continues their
is a
streak,
tough
or
one.
does EG bring them back to earth?
This is a
I
very
know
tough one.
it is pretty tough. I actually don't really have an answer.
Abadage is looking really bad.
Yeah.
Abadage's looking
I'm going 100
really,
Thieves.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, EG. Sorry, my bad.
Okay.
I'm going 100 thieves.
I misspoke. Yeah, I meant EG. Sorry about that.
I think just for that, I'm going to say EG as well, because Abadaga isn't looking good to me.
Abadage is looking really bad, and honestly, FBI is looking pretty good. But Huhi is like looking okay, and what's his name? Closer's looking okay. Somebody's looking okay. Like
Yeah.
FBI is looking good. So
FBI is looking really good.
Yeah.
That's their bright spot.
Yes.
Everybody else is looking super okay, and Abadage is looking like genuinely terrible. So it's hard to say.
Well, I'll go and I'll say that I think 100 Thieves will win. I give them more credit. If you can beat Team Liquid, to me, like Team Liquid is still the #1 team, right? You beating Liquid is a big deal. So, and your strongest player is currently FBI and maybe closer second, right? And that's or Impact. That's good enough. I think that's good enough to take out the advantages on EG. I personally don't think EG has been looking so hot ever since like they lost in lock-in. Like, I like it. They're exciting, but they haven't done much. They lost to C9 in like the saddest way possible. Am I gonna just keep on getting sad and being disappointed week over week? I think not.
Okay.
They both have such terrible mid games too. Is also my issue. Where it's like honestly, either team could go ahead and that you still wouldn't know who's gonna win.
Yeah. So you bet on the team with the better late game, which is FBI.
Danny's pretty good late game too.
He is.
You have Impact also. Impact's gonna be so much better than someday.
I don't know, man. I saw that Tryndamere build. Like we didn't talk about it, but he went
Okay,
Randuin's
that was
third, and then
was
Moral
bad.
Reminder fourth, and then did nothing with an 8-kill like advantage. He was solo
Impact
killing
is not
someone.
a trend player. Let's be real, guys. Do you ever
He's
think
still
of Impact
practicing it
as
in
a
Champions
trend
queues. He's still practicing it, so he's definitely thinks he is. He played really well up until the point where he built Randuin's, and I was like, ooh, I can sort of see it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure someone went 0-2-0 in that lane, right? So.
He got destroyed, yeah. And then he could have kept dying. If he built IE third, that someone would never get to breathe. Like every turret was his domain. So anyways.
I'm gonna go EG. I think they're. I don't think it's like I'm gonna be, if 100 Thieves wins, I'm gonna be 0% surprised. But I think EG will win.
All right.
Yeah, they
That's
seem
fair.
okay.
It's a hard prediction.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we're split right down the middle. Be exciting to watch.
Sort of. Yeah.
All right, Alistair, you got something?
Yeah, important thing we didn't mention is the patch. So we should probably do a really quick
Okay.
Ari.
Will it
will
it go live this
It
for
should
Pro?
be. It's
okay.
usually
12.3,
goes,
right?
Yeah,
Pardon?
12.3.
I think
It
it's
should be
12.3.
12.3 was Ari's
Okay.
patch, I think.
Yeah, 12.3 should be live this weekend.
So Ari should that's with the new
Ari,
Ari,
we're
right?
gonna see a lot of Ari, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't wait.
Where it is, apparently Champ's super broken.
I've been seeing
We'll
it.
have to
Yep.
see.
No, I don't think it'll go
itemization.
in. I don't think it'll go in
Aw,
because it's
damn.
just it's only been a week.
Yeah,
It's
it's usually the patch drops for LCS a week after the patch drops for live.
Yeah, but patch just dropped, right?
No, it's been
patch
out for a bit.
12.3
now.
dropped last week.
yeah,
okay.
last
Yeah.
week. Usually it's 2 weeks. Is it
No,
just
it's usually 1 week.
Well, we will see. If we see Ari, don't be surprised. It's not the old Ari, it's the new one.
The new one.
You're like, why Ari?
Yeah.
Jensen's not here, guys. It's okay.
That's hilarious.
Ari, Bruiser items, Twist Fake got nerfed pretty hard. Caitlyn got hit pretty hard.
Oh, okay. So those
80 carry Senna is pretty dead again.
Zeri got
Nami
nerfed.
buffs,
No.
Lucian
Corki change, which is our Corki nerf.
change.
Corki
I
is gonna be
think-
irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't think so, but
I think Corki will still be 100% big ban or close to it.
I think it'll be
Death
like 80
Stance.
plus.
Death
Yeah,
Stance
Death
is
Stance.
broken.
Death
Sterix
Stance.
sucks. If you're
I'm
building
calling it,
Sterix,
we're gonna see Jin with Death Stance and or Maw of Malmortius.
yeah. We're gonna see. Jin with Death Stance is like unkillable, stupid. It's really funny.
It's really funny.
It's really bad. But
Okay.
we're gonna see Death Stance, or we're gonna if you build Sterix, you're trolling, unless it's like 5th item. So there's a little bit of that. La, good item. Yeah. Oh, Turbo Chem Tank, really bad too now. So it's still okay on Akali, but you should probably still go Riftmaker on Akali. Yeah, that's about
Okay.
it. I think that's
Okay,
the
cool.
patch.
Shortest patch rundown you've ever seen
I
in
mean,
your
it's
life.
good to know, especially because some of those champions we do see in Pro, like you said,
Yeah,
Caitlyn.
a
Let's
lot
see
of
for
them.
presence goes down. Twisted Fate, that's
Senna,
always highly contested. Yep, Senna.
Zeri.
So be on the look for that. I will be interested if Ari, if Ari comes back. She hasn't seen pro play in a long time, so that will be really interesting.
Since last year.
I'm actually excited.
Split.
Well, but they played her like what? How many times did she actually?
Twice, I think, or 2 or 3 times.
I wonder if she'll actually make more of a presence more than one.
She should see play considering how powerful she is. It just might not for a while because people are getting used to her. But she is very powerful.
We'll see. Champions Q, maybe Champions Q. Maybe Champions Q speeds up the process because people are playing it in more competitive spaces.
True.
So that's another pro, I think, for Champions Q. But all right, well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you again, Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair, for sharing all your wise insights. I mean, there's a lot to discuss, and I love it because there's so much content. There's so many things to get hyped for. Even Alistair got hyped when we talked about Champions Q. Hardly ever see me get hyped about many things, but that was one of them, so I'm excited about that. But until next time, guys, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.